I was reading the other day something about GDP and happiness, and they were saying that from $50,000 on, people responded the same way with 15,000 and with 50. Like
$15,000 on.
$15,000.
You're not happier.
They were saying that money wasn't a factor that increased
happiness.
One. So they were saying once you get this level of comfortability from that point on, money is not related to happiness in a mathematical way. So that's something
that question of what happiness is. I think there's a theme of, from the Buddhist sense, the compassion element. That school of thought believes that you can find happiness is through compassion in this lifetime for even the people that you really strongly disagree with. And when you do that, when you're able to truly do that and have love even for that person, you are freed from your own mind, which is the cause of all suffering in this lifetime, and that equals being happy. Another one is this idea of being in the present, being in the moment, really kind of making sure that you're living in harmony with everything around you. Maybe more the vegan approach. You're not wasting anything. You know that when you are throwing your stuff away, you are not damaging someone upstream or downstream from you. You're in as harmonious a way with the cycle as possible, and that is how you feel like good. That's what makes you happy. The other one is this: don't focus too much about either where you came from, release all this mental baggage, and don't plan too much for the future. Don't live in tomorrow and just, all you can do is just, you can't wait till, you get more money. You can't wait till you take that vacation. And I think people who, for example, have lost someone, really close to them, I think that kind of is one of the first things that hits home.
Do you have a personal take on for you, like, or do you have, or, I don't know if you've lost someone or if you
I've lost my father 7 or 8 years ago, so I definitely had some of that, like, I wish the most valuable thing in the world would have been for me to really focus on that day going for a swim with him, and that right there, that was it, that was the gold. I was worried about all these other things, but that was the nugget, that's the one.
Because I was reading the other day, I was making a blog on what happened that made us believe, especially in the 20th century, that happiness is related to what you buy. And then I was reading a lot of different stuff and came up with all these clues, and some people are just interested into change from a society based on values and create a society based on more on desire and impulse. And the change doesn't seem that important, but in the long term you can create, like, with mass media and nice advertising, an economy more based on things you don't really need, and less based on frugality and values and education and fraternity and actual knowledge.
The people that I like look up to probably more than anyone is just like people who, it doesn't matter what's going on in their life, like they can find a way to see the glass half full instead of half empty, and smile and laugh. And it's not that they're stupid, it's not that they're blind to all the suffering going on in the world, but they've just tapped into something inside of them. It's not external, it's inside of them that glows, makes that person glow.
It's true. Attitude makes a huge.
Yeah.
For instance, one of the little things I started appreciating more was the fact that I just belong to the last generation in Spain that happened to have parents that lived in a totally different environment, like a rural environment, and they just carry on a lot of knowledge that is not in the books but is important, and they know how to cook and how to make things with the hands and how to explain stories. And I didn't notice that I had that when I was a kid and I was growing up. until I just started to see what was going on in other cultures. And I did notice that in other places, people were not paying attention to the moment of eating, for instance. And to me, it was like a trauma to see how entire families were like going to the kitchen by themselves, one by one, just grabbing some food, using it as fuel. Wouldn't it be great if you can connect these people like 20 minutes a day? In order to appreciate that food, if you make like a little piece of love, what about if you take care of the food because it's what you are doing in that exact moment, and you create like a good food for that moment, and then you eat it, and then you think, this is a good food, and then you take the moment to put the plate in there, and then you say, okay, so what's next? But that thing was something that it's related to what you guys were saying of the moment, right? This moment is disappearing all over the world, and it's only one example. She's talking.
I think people have the idea of what they think happiness is, but if you watch that person, I think there's a big difference between what they think makes them happy and what actually makes them smile on a daily basis. Maybe that moment that their kid does something silly, and that's the hardest. They laugh all day, and they might tell you that what makes them happy is planning out their 401k because next year they're going to go to Bermuda.
What makes you happy? Do you know?
Well, I think I'm trying to tap into the simple things that make me happy and try to keep those top of mind. I get happy when I literally I'm swimming and I walk out of the water. That's a very basic thing. I'm happy when I eat something good. I'm happy when someone says something really funny. I love watching funny videos. I get a chemical reaction from that. That makes me happy. Yeah, we get so caught up in like this idea of the happiness and that being like a 5-year plan, and it's completely separate from what happens on a day-to-day basis. It's like we're so bored with the reality that for me to say, I get happy when I have a good warm bowl of grape nuts in the morning. Like, what a loser,
When I see Kirsten, can I say it?
Yeah.
Like reading an email from his family or whatever, reading something and with like a tea or something, or a bit of chocolate in there. I can see. Well, I don't know what she's thinking right
moment.
now, but
It's a good moment.
In a good moment, probably.
My chocolate.
Talking
And, yeah.
You should like write something. Yeah.